Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for a new video. I definitely feel like we're due for a bit of a catch up. I did step away from last week's video to go on a short and sweet anniversary trip with my husband. We took a quick trip back to my hometown and then drove a little bit north to Orlando to go to some of the theme parks. And I have to say, as I get older, I am less and less of a wild ride person. I used to be very, very interested in roller coasters in my teen years and early 20s, but now I am definitely prone to motion sickness and just prefer not to feel my bones rattle on those rides. I did go on a few this trip and I was pleasantly surprised with the lack of motion sickness and discomfort that I experienced, except for one ride, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. And actually, I do have a funny story to share with you guys about us ending up on a roller coaster that we didn't realize we were getting on. So before we get into all of that, thank you guys again for joining me this week and for all of your support. I'm so appreciative of that. I just want to address the fact that we are still here in my room chatting instead of in the greenhouse. And I have to say, this is a case of comfort winning. The greenhouse right now is a literal oven. So unless I'm filming at the very end of the day or the early morning, which I don't tend to do because I'm not a massive morning person, which is a whole other tangent. So for selfish purposes of comfort and not sweating on camera and suffering through the heat, I'm in my bedroom. And honestly, I think that's probably where I'll be for the majority of the warmer months. Okay, so now circling back to the trip, we decided to check out Epic Universe for the first time. We had gone to the original Harry Potter area for Diagon Alley and we loved it. And so we wanted to check out Epic and the new area, the Ministry of Magic. And just to share my first impressions and true honest thoughts on the park, I was a little surprised at how few rides and attractions were available. I wasn't expecting there to only be one ride, which was the Metro Flu. That ride was really good. What I will say is that ride has one of the coolest and most interesting waiting areas as you walk through the line that you get to see and experience. There's a barrier of smoke that you get to walk through that everyone was filming, and actually my husband and I got a video of us walking through that, and you get to see all of these different kind of sets that they've created that match the plot behind the ride, which is Dolores Umbridge's trial. There were just a lot of special things, large statues and effects. So I really enjoyed the waiting experience. The waiting experience was very long, which not surprising for a ride at Universal, but the ride itself was a lot of fun, and I do think it was worth the wait. I did see some criticism online about the animatronic quality of Dolores. I noticed that it didn't 100% look like her, but I didn't think that that was a huge deal personally. I did enjoy the ride a lot. It didn't make me motion sick, so that was a win. And yeah, I thought that that was a great ride. Now, the only other attraction that I'm aware of, and I could be wrong on this because maybe we didn't see everything, was the Circus Arcanus, I think, if I'm saying that correctly. Now, this is more of a sort of live performance and show rather than a ride. So it only happens at dedicated times throughout the day. And the first time that we attempted to go, unfortunately had reached max capacity. So we had to go occupy our time elsewhere, and we circled back, and then we were standing in line, and about 10 to 20 minutes into standing in line, we heard a voice come on the speaker that told us that there was a delay. And we were given the option to either back out and leave and go find something else, or sit and wait and just hope that the delay would pass soon. We decided to wait because this was the only other attraction in the area, and we knew we wanted to see it, and it was getting later in the day. So we waited, and we waited probably about an hour, 40 minutes to an hour, and then the line resumed and we got in to watch the show. The show itself was a little interesting because at first they put you in a circular arena and you're kind of packed like sardines with other people. This is probably my least favorite thing about the experience. It's kind of like a pre-show where they're giving you a little bit of information about what you're going to see. There's a little bit of a magical act happening, which was cool. But like I said, just being packed with everyone and people being not the happiest about the environment did kind of affect the enjoyment that we were having. So once this was over, we headed into the theater and sat down, and the performance began. The first part of the act was really interesting, where you had people dancing and moving around, spinning large objects, and there was also some effects, which I appreciated. There were bubbles that came down filled with smoke, and then it jumped into the plot, and the plot was more centered around the Fantastic Beasts storyline, which I personally am not incredibly familiar with, so I wasn't really acquainted with some of the creatures they were showing in the performance, but the visual effects and the imagery were beautiful, and it was enjoyable overall. So after that, we decided to venture out of that section of the park and go elsewhere, and we thought we were entering the How to Train Your Dragon area, which we both enjoy that animated film. It's just so adorable. However, what we realized after the fact is that the coaster we thought was affiliated with How to Train Your Dragon was in fact not. So I looked at this coaster going into the Ministry of Magic area and thought it looked more mild from what I could see of it. And what I didn't realize is that it is a lot less mild than it shows on the front half. On the back half, there's inversions and barrel rolls happening that are happening at incredibly fast speed. And we didn't notice that until we were already in line and like 3 steps away from going onto the coaster. I started to panic, and I looked over at my husband and was like, I don't want to do this, and I want it out. And he was like, no, we need to do it. It looks fun. So we sat down and got secured into the ride, and I just went full on panic because I haven't gone on a coaster like this in so long. I was really anxious about getting sick and that kind of ruining the experience for the rest of the day and the day to follow. But my husband did convince me to keep going, so we went on it, and yeah, it definitely is not a mild coaster the way that I thought it was. So I want to say this one was called was it Stardust Racers or something like that. This was a way more extreme coaster than I was expecting, but I got through it, and actually it was a lot of fun and I didn't get sick from it. So that was a win, but just funny situation. And long story short, if you're like me and you're trying to avoid intense coasters, know what you're getting yourself into and consult maps. So now jumping ahead to the next day, we did decide to go back to the Diagon Alley area as well as Hogsmeade. And there were 2 rides the first time that we went that we never got to go on, and that was the Flight of the Hippogriff, and I think it's like Escape from the Dark Forest. It's a motion ride, and I have to say I'm really glad I went on Flight of the Hippogriff first before the motion ride, because that motion ride made me violently sick, as well as my husband. We got very motion sick. We were both dizzy. My stomach was very upset with nausea. So all the rides I went on at the parks didn't do anything. Even the Simpsons ride, I made it through the Simpsons ride. I was okay with motion sickness, but that ride in Hogsmeade really upset me. And then sure enough, after I did my research and found out that I guess that's a pretty common experience with that ride. I still enjoyed it, but would I go on it again now knowing how I felt afterwards? And sadly, I think the answer would be no, but I'm glad I got to experience it once. So anyway, I didn't mean to chat your ear off about the theme parks, but I wanted to share my little trip with you guys. And if you guys have been to any of the Orlando theme parks, I would love to know what your experience was. Have you been to the Harry Potter areas? Have you been to the new Epic Universe Ministry of Magic area, and what were your thoughts on it? Did you like the Metro Flu? Did you like the Circus Arcanus? Okay, so now let's chat about garden updates and what's growing in the early month of June here. So I think you saw in the last video that we have some wild berries coming in, and for the longest time I was struggling between understanding and differentiating whether these were blackberries or black raspberries, and I think I finally got an answer. So I do believe that these are black raspberries, which makes sense because they are a bit more compact and petite than a traditional blackberry fruit. We have many bushes surrounding our property, and I noticed a couple weeks ago that we were starting to get unripe fruit coming in, and they started to ripen. And then by the time that we returned back from our trip, we have some ripe berries, which is really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to using these for recipes and just snacking on. They're delicious, of course. And once we're done with our little chat here, I do want to run out there and harvest some of the ripe berries. I don't think I'll have enough yet to do any really exciting recipes. I think doing some black raspberry jam or syrup or scones actually would be really good. Ice cream. I think there's so much that we could do with them. So if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know down in the comments. And on the subject of berries, my ultimate goal in the critter fence is to have a bunch of different berry bushes planted back there that are dedicated to us, and we're not competing with wildlife to harvest. So I did go to the garden center when I got back, and I picked up an elderberry bush, which I think is going to be amazing for pies and jams and just beautiful. So I'm very excited about that, and that's newly planted, so she's not doing much yet. And then I also have that blackberry that I mentioned to you guys that's a native plant. Actually, the elderberry is native as well. The blackberry is still young, so she's not doing much either, but she's also planted. And then I would like to get a red raspberry bush planted back there along with blueberry. So I have a lot of plans for that critter fence area. I would like to also at some point purchase and plant at least 2 apple trees on the property. I did also pick up 2 sunflowers from the garden center, which I've planted back there for the cutting garden. I do want to plant some of my own. I haven't gotten around to it, so these are sort of my insurance policy if I don't get around to planting them or if they don't perform very well from seed. I also am starting to work on the dahlia bed, which I'm behind on for sure. But I want to get my dahlia tubers planted so that they can be part of that cutting garden. In terms of the roses that I transplanted, they freaked me out a little bit when I got back from vacation because I noticed that some of their foliage was all curled and dried up. So I was worried that they didn't survive because right after we left, despite having many days of rain, we went into a dry period. And so I was worried that they got too dry. However, I peeled away the dried foliage, and I do see that the canes are still green. So I think they've survived. I gave them a really good water, and I think they're in good shape and they're going to be just fine. So we'll keep monitoring, but the rose garden and the critter fence is doing well so far. And I did receive my Olivia Rose Austin from David Austin the day that I got back from the trip, and I planted her immediately, and she looks great so far. Obviously, she's quite tiny, so she hasn't produced any flowers for me to show you yet. Now, in terms of other wild edible plants, aside from the black raspberry, we do have an abundance of wood sorrel that comes in here every year. And wood sorrel has a bit of a tangy kick to it, so it's great in salads. You could do a pesto with it, but we get it in large quantities here. So I will be harvesting some of that shortly to use in some of my cooking. And now that it's June, we also have some wild roses starting to bloom here. Okay, so for today, aside from gathering some of the black raspberries, I did want to create a wreath. I wanted to use the dried lilac. I think it has this like really pretty burgundy, deep kind of chocolate brown, a hint of maybe like a dark maroon color to it, and use that as an accent along with some of the dried alliums that have gone to seed in the garden. I did cut those back the other day, so I have them stacked in my greenhouse ready for use. And I'm also going to gather some evergreen branches for the base of the wreath. I then have a collection of a variety of dried flowers that I've collected over the past year or so from previous arrangements last year, like sunflowers and dahlias. And I think I even have a small hydrangea, so I'll maybe then decorate as well with some of those dried flowers and possibly some ribbon. All right, let's get outside and let's get some black raspberries and create a wreath together. we're back inside and we gathered some of our dried lilac as well as some of the alliums that had gone to seed. I don't know if the lighting here is going to do it justice enough, but here is one of the dried lilac stems. You can see it is this gorgeous, rich burgundy chocolate brown. Okay, we're back inside with our foraged materials. I just went out and grabbed, as you saw, some of the pine needle branches. We're gonna go ahead and start arranging little bouquets, if you will, of these various items and then start arranging them. And for this wreath, I am using this reusable metal mini wreath base. If I can find the seller that I purchased it from, I'll make sure to put it in the description box down below. So I'm going to start by building these individual bundles of evergreen branches. And I won't make them too big since I didn't gather too many branches, and this is a petite wreath base, so I think this is about good for one of them. So now I'm going to take my floristry wire and just secure it around the base of the bundle. I'm just removing the foliage from the lilac just to get the dried flowers in there. Okay, so that is the first bundle secured. And now let's go ahead and work on making another one. And now we'll secure the second bundle. I'm going to try to use less wire this time because I feel like I went a little crazy on the first one. And for this one, I'm not going to add in any dried lilac or alliums because I want to alternate them. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the third bundle. I think this is enough branches. Let's grab our dried lilac and our alliums. And I know I'm doing this in a slightly different order than I did with that first bundle, reason being because I forgot to add them in. So I did apply them after the fact, but this time I'm going to wrap them in with a bundle. And I have seen people spray paint these a color or gold or silver for wreaths, or honestly to save them as decorations for the Christmas tree later on in the year, but I'm just going to put them in natural. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and secure that one onto the wreath base. And we're continuing on, repeating the process, making a plain bundle now. And we probably just need to make about 2 or 3 more bundles. So we're going to layer our lilac and our allium once again. Alright, and I know from the angle you guys are seeing it at, it probably looks very messy. It honestly is messy and doesn't look like much yet, but I think this will be the last bundle given that we have 3 bundles that have the dried allium and lilac. Okay, so it's looking very wild and messy, which is kind of the aesthetic that I like. I am going to now add in some extra alliums and flowers and a bow. And I'm going to start with this dried dahlia and hydrangea. Just going to wrap some wire around them. Kind of give myself some excess. And then we're going to push it through and secure it to the base. And I don't have another one of the dried white dahlias, but I do have this light colored sunflower and this other hydrangea that I'm going to use in place right here. All right, and then I have one more dried sunflower and a little hydrangea. Okay, so we're gonna repurpose this bow that I had made for another wreath previously. Okay, so here is the final result. We're at a bit of an angle here because of the way that my dining room is set up, but it's in situ. I added a lot of dried dahlias and clover and all sorts of different things that I had, and I repurposed some rose hips as well from another wreath that I had made. I love how colorful it came out. It definitely screams summer to me and gives me joy. Okay, so random chat. I just wanted to share with you guys a product line that is new to me that I have been obsessed with for the past month or so. I discovered this brand NEOM. I'm not really sure how it's said. They are a brand that originated, I believe, in London. While on vacation in the Cotswolds, I did see a physical store for this brand, and I'm so sad now that I didn't give it a shot and go into the store and try out some of their products sooner, because I really, really love them. The product line, or at least some of the product line, is now sold at Ulta, and the one near me has quite a few of their products, which is very exciting. Their magnesium butters are my favorite, but I do love so many of their products, and I'll get into that in a second and talk about some of the other ones that I love. But this is their magnesium body butter, and this specific one is called Real Luxury, and I also love their, I don't remember if it's called Best Night Sleep or Deep Sleep or what the line is. I'll put it in the description box down below, but it is their sleep line. That one is also phenomenal. And I actually started off with that product first, and then I decided to try this one out, and this one rose to my #1 spot. So the fragrance is all natural essential oils, and they have the most gorgeous blends of essential oil fragrance, in my honest opinion. All of them smell divine. So this one specifically has lavender, jasmine, and sandalwood as sort of the key or top notes to the fragrance. And although the fragrance is enough to keep me purchasing it, the #1 reason why I will continue to purchase many, many more, and I already have, actually this is I think my 3rd bottle now, and you can see it is well loved, is the efficacy of the product. The magnesium in the body butter helps a lot with soreness and pain and stiffness in muscles. And I suffer a lot from sore and stiff muscles, so this is really nice. And also, bonus, I don't think this is an official claim by the brand by any means, but for me specifically, I do suffer with restless leg syndrome at night, falling asleep. And putting this on my feet and my calves and my hamstrings and all up and down my legs has helped me tremendously with restless leg syndrome. I go to sleep without that crawling feeling that I need to move my legs all night, and I fall asleep faster. I find my sleep is deeper and I feel more restful waking up. Now, within the different product lines that they have, the Real Luxury line, I think they have an essential oil blend, which I would like to get soon. They also have hand creams and shower creams and a whole variety of different products. I do have the matching shower cream for this Real Luxury scent, and it is wonderful. And then in terms of the sleep line, one of my favorite products by them is their pillow mist. That is so good. It smells amazing. It's highly relaxing. Let me know if you guys have also tried out this product line and what your favorite products are. I absolutely want to purchase more and keep trying them out because everyone I've tried is amazing. I really want to get my hands on one of their bath products next. Their bath, I think they have a bath milk or bath foam, something like that, but I'm really wanting to try it out. And let me know if you guys have other clean sort of wellness product lines that you enjoy.